What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another Friday night. You know who it is. It's the World Tag Team Champions of the Interactive Sports Talk. It's your boys, Play Callers. I am one half of the dynamic duo, Stephen Box. Joined as always by my co-host, the one and only.
Team champions. Cool McCain.
And together we are
Let's go.
the Play Callers. Yes, sir, man. We have an action-packed show for y'all tonight. You know, we talking some NBA Finals, right? Uh, Lots of NFL news, some other NBA news to talk about. I know our resident WNBA expert might have a little bit of drop on y'all there, so WNBA stuff. We're going to talk about some ridiculous things going on out there in the world of sports also tonight. So y'all do not want to miss it. But Mr. McCain, before we get into all that, I believe we have an announcement for the peoples. Little
The
something to
blinders
share
are
with them.
off. The blinders are off.
Yes, indeed.
Getting back to basics.
So just a little heads up for everybody. For y'all might have noticed over the last what's it been now? Almost 2 years now, about a year and a half or so. We've actually been a part of
Something
the
like that.
Sideline Sport Network, yeah, and we've made the decision that we're going to leave the network, leaving on good terms. But the thing is, we need to focus on us. We need to focus on Play Caller Sports Productions, which includes the Play Caller Sports Talk Show, the Eagles Elites podcast, and one more coming soon. Actually, two more coming soon for y'all. So got to stay tuned for those. But yeah, that's our big announcement, man. Is we're back on the market as semi-free agents. I say semi-free agents because we're not really like necessarily like needing to sign with anybody right now. We're just doing us. So
We're
nothing's
not
gonna
looking.
change.
We're kind of like lady gets out of the relationships and she's really not looking for another relationship. She's just focusing on herself. That's us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the right one come along, you always stay open to it, but we ain't looking, right? So, but yeah, that's it's not gonna affect this show any. We're gonna still be here. As a matter of fact, the only thing that's going to impact this show is we're gonna upgrade. So
Always upgrade.
always upgrading. So stay tuned. Big things coming for Play Caller Sports Productions. Know that. So let's go ahead and start off with this WNBA Finals, man. Or not WNBA, but NBA Finals. Man, I've been hanging around you too long. So
That was entertaining.
I know you appreciated that so much. So here's my question for you, man. We both said before the game, before the series started, we both picked Boston to win this series. Okay. Did you see anything last night, first and foremost, that has made you change your mind? Are you sticking with your pick after game one?
I am.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too.
I mean, it's very simple, man. You had 12 points out of Jason Tatum. Everyone, there's no argument that's the best player on the Celtics.
Right.
You had 12 points out of him,
Mm-hmm.
and you still won because you got 26 from Al Horford. That's not going to happen every night, but you're not going to need it to happen every night because Jason Tatum's going to play better.
Yeah.
You got 24 out of Jaylen Brown, which I have to admit, I like Jaylen Brown, but that was a garbage 24. That was a garbage 24. Like, you got to, Jaylen Brown, the shot selection, bro, you should have had a 40-point game. Like, that's the most garbage 24-point game that I remember in a while. And that's not a knock on Jason Tatum not Jason Tatum, but on Jaylen Brown, because Jaylen Brown could dog me on any basketball court in the world. But against the other best players in the world, you did not show up game wise. Statistically wise, you did, but dude, so many missed opportunities for you.
Yeah.
In a game where Tatum only had 12, you know what I'm saying, and had 13 assists, you should at least put up 35 on a minimum.
Yeah. What we saw last night was, I think, two pretty evenly matched teams, right? Two very different styles of basketball. But the one thing I like about this series is both of them play team basketball, which I think is going to make it very interesting. And we saw two teams that look pretty evenly matched through about 2.5, 3 quarters, right? Golden State had a little bit of a lead, but it didn't really ever feel like they were, completely in control. You got Mystical coming in over there on Mystical about to hit up on the track. But yeah, man, they didn't seem like they just like had the game at hand. Now, Golden State might have felt differently because I felt like they kind of turned it off a little bit, right? And I don't take away from Boston. You give Boston's defense credit for a lot of that. But what I saw was a Golden State team start to pass up on shot opportunities that they normally don't pass up on. And I felt like part of that was Boston's defense, was part of that was they started getting overconfident. And man, where have I heard before that Golden State has a tendency to get overconfident and think they could turn the switch on and off? Oh yeah, that would have been like any number of Friday nights here the last little bit during the NBA playoffs.
Pretty much. The thing, man, when you look at Golden State stats, right? Steph had 34. Steph did what he should do. But, Jordan Poole, 9, Klay Thompson, 15, Draymond Green, 4. Let's be real. He's going to be out there shooting wide open threes in this series. That's not going to happen. He's going to have to grind for his points. He's going to have to work on defense and then grind for his points on offense. He's not used to that.
Yeah.
He's used to teams saying, we're going to not worry about Draymond Green and try to put more focus on Steph or Claire, whoever's hot, Jordan Poole. No. There is one team, actually more than one, but one team that you played in this playoffs, you're playing now that's going to say, oh no, we're not leaving anybody open.
Yeah.
Everybody is going to need to do their part. We're going to blitz you offensively by attacking, even though sometimes we're going to make bad plays, like attack to the goal and then throw the ball out 30 feet. But that's a whole digression that we don't have time for.
Yeah.
But what you saw was,
go ahead, my bad.
You saw a team say, you know what? It's very simple. Everyone has to do their part. We're going to make you play on offense. We're going to make you play on defense. The only person that was able to step up in game one was Steph Curry. People might say Andrew Wiggins in his 20. I'll give him that. That's a good game for Andrew Wiggins. But you need that, and you still need Klay to put up more than 15 to have a chance, and Poole to put up more than 9 for you to win this series.
Yeah. So when I look at what Boston did defensively, a couple things stood out for me. Number one is, yes, they did cover everyone, but they also were kind of like, hey, you know what? We're going to leave Draymond out there a little bit by himself. We're going to leave Iggy out there a little bit by himself. They're not just going to let them shoot wide open threes. They closed out on them, but they kind of cheated off of those guys and went somewhere else because they were like, you know what? If we're going to allow those two to consistently try to knock down contested threes, we can live with that, right? What you wanted to do was you wanted to take away Golden State's off-ball movement, and that's really what they did a fantastic job of, especially in that fourth quarter.
Well, I guess when I say covering him, that's what I'm kind of saying. Like, what I'm referring to is a lot of teams just say, take the shot. We're not even going to close out. Yeah. Just take the shot like it. You're not going to get that here. You're going to get the closeouts. That's part of defense, right? Yeah. If the ball, if Draymond Green is on the right side and the ball is on the left side of the court, if you're standing there guarding Draymond Green, you're allowing cutting lanes for a team that loves to go back door and run the Princeton offense to have lanes to do that.
Right.
So what you do is you shade off of your man in the holes, so the ball handler is like, yeah, I can't really make that play this time because there's somebody there. Kind of like Miami did a lot against Boston as well in the Eastern Conference Finals. That defense, they shade off of the guys on the weak side or the offside of the play.
Right.
And this is something that Boston's done. They did it to Milwaukee. They did it to Miami. They did it on this run in the regular season. They're young and athletic enough at every position, almost except for Al Horford, where they can say, we're going to cheat off a little bit. We're going to be able to get back. Even if you make the pass, we're going to be able to get back to deny the shot.
Yeah.
See, Golden State is used to movement 1, movement 2, movement 3. Somebody's open, something breaks down.
Right.
That's not happening against Boston.
Right.
So they're going to have to adjust to that. They have a really good coach. Great coach is Steve Kerr, who should be able to make those adjustments. At the same time, Boston is going to have to see what adjustments they make and be ready for those in game 2. Boston should not come out. I'm not going to say is not, but should not come out in game 2 thinking that they're going to see the same team that they saw in game 1.
Yeah.
Boston stole a game. Let's be 100% real. I enjoyed it because there's so many people that were saying that they were going to get swept. They did not even lose game 1. So there's no sweep in effect against Boston. So it was good for me just to see, hey, we play the game on the court. We don't play the game in public opinion. We don't play the game, oh, I love Steph. Oh, I love Clay. Oh, I love Dre. Oh, I love the pool party. They got to win. There's no way they can lose games. They're the greatest. No, we determine winners by what Herm Edwards always says. It's how you play the game. So happy with the outcome. I believe 6 or 7 games. But Boston and nothing I've seen would make me change it.
Yeah. I think now's a good time for us to bring up a new segment that we have here on the show, the instant replay. And this is where we take a look, throw a challenge flag, so to speak, against some of the things that we've seen out there, either by the teams themselves or sometimes by fans. And in this case, I'm reviewing the fans. So you just brought it up. Before this game, you had a lot of people that were like, oh, Golden State's going to sweep them. They've got all these weapons. How can Boston possibly guard them? Right. And then after last night, what I've been seeing all day today and what I saw all last night was the opposite. Now, I haven't seen anybody say that Boston's going to sweep. I'm sure that somebody has. I haven't seen that. But I have seen people go, oh, Golden State's in trouble. They're done. They're finished. Listen, stop being a prisoner of the moment. That's really what this boils down to. Okay. I've reviewed the arguments and I'm overturning your calls because the bottom line is they're overreactions. Yes, Golden State played well. We told you on this show the competition they played in the Western Conference was incredibly weak. They really weren't challenged. Okay. Now, yes, Boston also had a little bit of benefit. Chris Middleton being out really helped them. Jimmy Butler not being healthy, Tyler Hero not being able to play, that helped them to even get to this point. But even with those injuries, those teams in the East were still tougher than what Golden State had to go through in the West. We have to learn, and when it comes to these series especially, stop overreacting to every little thing. Yes, it's fun to watch and it's fun to get caught up in, but enjoy the chess match because I'm going to tell you, we saw up until that last quarter, these look like two really evenly matched teams. And if you think that Golden State's not coming with a game plan, if you think they're not going to make some adjustments, if you really think they've gone to all these NBA finals because they have a coaching staff that don't know what they're doing, you don't understand basketball. The adjustments are coming. I'm thinking Golden State's going to win game 2. Then it comes a matter of can they go
well, if you're
back in
Boston? Yeah, if you're Boston, your thing is I'm trying to win every game I can, but your game plan has to be let's get one of those first 2, right? We can get one of those first 2. Now, funny thing about it, we talked about this earlier. This is a matchup of 2 teams that don't really care about home court advantage, right? Not that it's not good to have, but they've been playing the playoffs better on the road than at home anyway.
Yeah.
So these are two teams that are looking and saying, okay, it's wins. It's not necessarily if I win at home or I win on the road, it's wins. If I'm Boston, I've won the first game. If I never lose 2 games in a row in the series, there's no way I can lose this series. If I win 2 games in a row, I put myself in an even better position.
Mhm.
So if you're Boston, you want to do what Golden State did not do in the fourth quarter in this series. You want to take your foot, this is their throat, and you want to drive it there and leave it and push on it.
Yep.
Teams have to understand, in basketball especially, when you have a team down, you don't stop doing to get up. You crush them.
Yep.
You take their hope. You beat them by 40. You don't let them back in the game. When you let them back in the game, last night happens. I've been saying all along, this is Golden State throughout the season. So here's the thing to everyone who believes now that Boston is the favorite because they won game 1. Fact of the matter is, this was needed for Boston to really be part of this series. For them to consider themselves really being part of the series straight up. And this is somebody who picked Boston to win. They needed to win game 1. Mm-hmm. They needed to set the tone and say, we're going to take a lead. Yeah. We're going to be 1. You're going to be 0. So now we need to win 3 out of the next 6 games to win a championship. If that's the next 3 in a row, that's 3 out of 5. If that's 3 out of 6, they need to win 3 more games to win a championship. If you're Golden State, there's no need to panic. I have plenty of friends that are Golden State fans, whether they're true fans or transplants. That's not my decision to make. Yeah. But they all feel like Golden State is fine after 1 loss, and I completely agree. But now at some point throughout that series, you've got to put together 2 solid games back to back. Yeah. What we've seen from Golden State so far, I don't know if they're going to do that. But if there is a team with their firepower working that can do it, be Golden State. Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, we haven't really started to see the series yet, but we did get a win for the team that needed that win in game 1. So for anyone who's basing how they feel about this series off 1 game, understand there's 6 more games to be played. There's going to be momentum shifts in games and quarters in the series. Be prepared for it. Whoever can ride that wave, that's who's going to win the series.
Yeah, and
stop being prisoners of the moment.
And this is something people need to understand about this too, right? Is when you look at basketball in particular, I mean, you see this in other sports too, but I think basketball this really applies because the possessions are so fast. Where if you are behind and you start building a comeback, right? There comes a point where you either have to expend so much energy to get that comeback to happen that you end up falling short. But if you don't have to expend as much energy and you can start getting back into the game, at some point it starts to energize you. And then the momentum flips, and it's the other team who maybe took their foot off the gas a little bit who really struggles to get back on it. We see this in football with teams that start trying to run the clock out because they think that they've got it and they're not having success with the running game, and then they try to go back to throwing the football. It doesn't work out well. But in basketball, it's just different because in basketball, there is no such thing as insurmountable leads. You can be up 30 points, and then within the blink of an eye, all of a sudden, you're like only up by 5 points, and you're like, what just happened?
Right.
That normally doesn't happen
Completely
with
agree.
other sports. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. I think it's going to be fun. I did pick Boston to win also. I'm still sticking with that. I just think at the end of the day, in this chess match that's going to go back and forth, I think that Boston's athleticism, their length, and their ability to defend with every single person on the court is going to be really big for them. And the person that I think that if I'm Golden State fans, the one person I'm actually the most worried about is Draymond. Because right now, he's a liability for you. Because if he's not going to be able to go out there and actually score points, if he's going to go out there and give you 4 points and 6 fouls, if that's going to be his stat line throughout the playoffs or throughout the finals, y'all in trouble.
I mean, it's really not much more to say about that.
Did I break the code? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know, man. It's funny how the code was broken. I was going to mention this, but since you laid it out for me, I might as well. It's funny how so many people were talking about how Dylan Brooks is such a bad guy and he's a Bush League player and whatever, whatever. Oh, you mean the guy that was hurt so bad, either is a mutant, one of Wolverine's children we don't know about, or maybe he wasn't hurt as bad. Maybe a team of guys that I don't like as individuals because they overlook the dirtiest player in the game, the Ric Flair of the NBA, but then they want to whine and talk about somebody else broke the code.
Right.
So my thing is simply this. At this point, shut up. I don't want to hear nothing about Gary Payton II, any injuries or anything like that. He's back available. Whether you play him or not, that's on you. How many minutes you play him, that's on you. But he's there for you, so you can no longer cry. All you did was prove to me that you're all soft. Y'all cried hoping you would get the NBA to kick him out of the series or suspend him for more games. Now, you did get him out of second game, so you got a little bit of what you wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a little bit. But you thought you were going to get him going for the rest of the series, you and your little crybaby fan base.
Right.
But guess what? The league saw through it. And now he's back. But he was hurt so bad. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but a fractured elbow, if it's really bad, if it's anything more than a mild fracture, you're going to be out a lot longer than this guy was out. My mom was a nurse. So there are some things I've learned about along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just leave that on that. So moving on, another NBA topic right now. So exactly what you said should happen, did happen. My Lakers hired Darvin Ham to be their next head coach. So I would ask you what your thoughts are on it, but I already know that you'd like to hire because when I asked you several weeks ago who we should hire, that's who you said.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything that you want to add based on like some of the details maybe you've heard around the hire?
I'd like to say this. LA Lakers fan bases, sports analysts, people who cover sports, shut up. All you've done since this man has been hired is sit here and talk about, that's not a good hire. He's only going to make it 1 year. LeBron's giving him the kiss of death by supporting him on Instagram and blah, 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 blah. I said this before. I'm going to say it again. This man is not stupid. He's gotten assurances. You're going to get time to put your team in place before we're going to judge you on should we keep you or not. Yeah. If this team is a cluster cluck this year, you can't blame Darvin Ham. He's inherited a team that was put together by a guy that was inept to be a general manager, and that is LeBron James. Mm-hmm. It's not LeBron James' fault, though. We joke about it a lot. I tease about it a lot, kid about it a lot, but it's not LeBron James' fault. Yeah. It's Jeannie Buss's fault. It's Rob Pelinka's fault. Your job was to put this roster together. Now you've took the first intelligent step that I've seen in a while, and you actually went out and got a young head coach that can grow with a team that you're going to have to rebuild. So how do you jumpstart that rebuild? You got to get rid of some of these elder pieces. Yeah. If I'm the Lakers, Anthony Street Clothes Davis, if I can get value for him, he's out of there. You know, if somebody comes with the right package for LeBron, he's out of there. Somebody comes with the right package for Westbrook, he's out of there. And I'm not saying you get rid of all of them, but at least one of those guys has to go. And it honestly doesn't matter which one of the three. It just has to be one of the three. Rebuild, allow Darvin Ham the opportunity to show you what he can do as a head coach. He's a player's coach. Watched another show, I'm not going to name, but I watched another show where they talk trash about, he's a player's coach. He's going to be soft. He's going to let people run over him. Nah, that's not what's going to happen. This man has learned under Budenholzer, and Budenholzer has a tough skin because fans of the team, fans of the players on the team have been wanting his head for years. So he has a tough skin, and you got to sit beside a man who actually did win it, and you got to see him go through the bad times and the good times. And not to mention, this is a guy that was formerly on your Lakers staff already. So let's get a guy time and shut your mouth. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, I don't get this whole thing with people where They just want to automatically be like, "Oh, this is a terrible idea. This isn't going to work." Blah blah blah. Right? It's one thing if you're like, "Hey, I would have rather seen them gone out and got a veteran coach." Right? If you say they need to bring in somebody more experienced, if that's your viewpoint, that's fine. I don't personally agree with you, but I'm okay with you having that viewpoint, right? What I have an issue with is when you don't like what they went out and did, and so you criticize it. That's what I have a problem with because you're just like, they're idiots. What are they thinking? That's not really like a solid argument. Like you're not giving me any actual solid reasoning for why you hate it, other than you wanted a veteran coach. And that's literally all you can come up with. And if that's honestly the best you can come up with, just keep your mouth shut. You sound like an idiot. So to
Hold
me,
on, hold on,
I'm
hold on.
excited.
Not keep your mouth shut. Shut up.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
I wasn't going to quite go there, but definitely.
Acknowledge me. So I'm excited about the hire personally, as a Lakers fan, right? Now, what I'm going to be curious to see is what does happen with this roster. Because as you just said, and we've had this conversation before, both here on the show and offline, if we get good value for Anthony Davis, LeBron, I don't care who you are. If we can get something better in return, deuces. I have no loyalty to a individual player, okay? The only player that has played for the Lakers that I had any level of loyalty to was Kobe. And that's because Kobe was a Laker for 20 years and brought multiple championships to the team. Until you have brought 5 championship rings to the team, go sit down somewhere. You don't deserve any respect. So my thing
What do you
is,
mean, sir?
say what I said.
What do you mean, sir? You got one a couple of years ago in the bubble.
Yes, we got one.
King James, the uncrowned king, because he wasn't even the best player on your team in the series. It was your MVP.
And I will say, because I've said it before, but I will repeat it right here for anybody that maybe has not heard me say this. The only reason the Lakers won a championship that year was because that 3-month break. And here's a little hint for y'all. You can ask my co-host to confirm this. I actually said before the bubble even started that LA was going to win the championship, and that was exactly why they would win it. I was like, you just gave AD and LeBron 3 months off to get ready? Oh, it's a wrap. I wish we could play in the bubble or have a 3-month break every year. The Lakers have like 20 championships right now. But this team is
but seriously though,
man.
Give a dude time to build a team the way it needs to be built. Give him time to get the players he wants, work with management. When you can get a young coach, that's like players respect, you can get the right players in there, give them a couple of years to build that thing up. I mean, you can have something dangerous like you would have had if you had left LeBron and AD alone. But I digress again.
Which, speaking of that, I will also throw this out there. So one of the things that I've seen reported is the Lakers allegedly, I'll say allegedly, have assured him that Kurt Rambis will not be all up in the film room, all up in the meetings, all up in practice in his business, trying to tell him how to run the team, which was apparently a very big problem with Frank Vogel. So if that happens, I'm good with that. And I think that's actually going to be very necessary because that was one of my big concerns when I talked about before, when everybody's asking me, oh, what do you think about the hire? And I said, I have some concerns about the organization, not the hire. It's exactly what I was talking about was when Kurt Rambis, because the rumors are behind the scenes, he has been a bit of a troublemaker. And him and Frank Vogel did not get along. And I told you before, like
Kurt and his wife.
Yeah. And my problem was not with Frank Vogel last year. I mean, to an extent, I do hold him accountable because you didn't make the change you need to make. But at the end of the day, you asked a guy whose specialty is defense to go out there and coach a bunch of guys who had no juice in the tank by the fourth quarter. So it was never going to work. It was not going to be a successful season. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing what somebody who is younger, who actually isn't stuck in their ways and can know how to be innovative to come in and see what they can do. So that's all I'm gonna say on that.
I can dig that.
Yep. Any other NBA or WNBA news that you want to throw out there before we move into some other conversations, sir?
So I definitely love to throw a bit of WNBA news out there. Want to shout out number one, the top teams in the WNBA. And I'll special shout out to the best team in the WNBA. That would be the Las Vegas Aces. The best 10 games started 9-1. They did end up losing their last game as well. In program history, or in organizational history, in the history of the WNBA. And you may remember who the coach of that team is. One, Becky Hammond.
Yep.
Yep. So she's taken a team and made them essentially the best team in the WNBA right now after roughly 10, 11 games for most teams.
Yep.
The next best teams are 7-3. And that's two teams from the East. And then the next best team after them is also from the East at 6-3. And that would be the team with the Rookie of the Month. And for those of you who may not be aware, that would be Ryan Howard from the Atlanta Dream. So the Atlanta Dream, one of the worst teams in the WNBA last year. Granted, we're looking at a 9-10 game, sample size. Is the third best team in the East right now. Yeah. So there's been some movement, how things are playing, how things are going in the WNBA this year. A lot of teams have had infusions of talent from, releases or pickups or trades. So a lot of teams look a lot of different from last year.
Yeah.
And they're playing very well. So I urge you, we only have the NBA Finals left now. You want to see some basketball after that? Go watch the WNBA. Find some teams that you like. They're doing a better job this year of putting the games on where most people can see them. So find you some games, check it out. You'll really enjoy it. Very happy, very proud of Ryan Howard for being the Rookie of the Month, and also very happy with her for being the first Eastern Conference Player of the Week for Week 1. So some great accolades for a young player that's just starting her career. But like I said, the Sun, the Mystics, the Aces, the Storm, the Wings, the Sky, there are so many great teams in the WNBA. And there is a kind of like I want to say, there's a clear separation. The Fever, the Liberty, the Mercury, and the Lynx right now. And the Mercury, of course, are missing Brittany Griner. I think that's waxing on the team very heavily. But those are the teams that are kind of falling down a little bit right now. And you have the other teams kind of starting to ascend so far in the season. Still time for things to change, but shout out to the WNBA. Shout out to those ladies that go out there and get the job done every day. And of course, shout out to my rookie who I wanted, we got, and she is proven to be everything she would be. Do it for the Dream.
And in case anybody didn't catch any of those hints, if you really just don't know who else to root for, my co-host would like to say you to watch the Atlanta Dream.
Do it for the Dream.
So we got a little NFL news too, man. So talk a little NFL tonight too, since we only had one playoff series in the NBA to actually talk about. So
playoffs,
a couple of retirements. Might be missing some retirements too, but we're going to talk at least a couple I know of. If there's some other ones that we haven't heard of yet, feel free to drop those over in the comments and we'll talk about them. But your boy Fitzmagic, 17 seasons, man. Obviously, I don't think anybody's going to say that Fitzmagic is even going to remotely be considered as a Hall of Famer. But man, if there is anybody out there that is more Jekyll and Hyde than Fitzmagic, I don't know who it is, man. I mean, there are times where that dude looked like an elite quarterback, and then other times where you understood why he played for like 17 different teams.
Yeah. The thing is for me, for Fitz Magic, as you said, very great in times. He's a guy that kept a lot of teams in for playoff spots. You know, he was the a guy that was glue. He never was really great, but he did hang around a long time because there was something that he brought skill wise, swag wise, um, intellectually wise. Is very seemed to be a very smart player from a lot of people that played with him and how they talked about him. And you know, he's a guy that took what talent he had. He made it to the best league in the world for football, and he was able to be a consistent guy that started pretty much most of his career. So that's really a testament to him.
Yeah.
You know, a big thing gets made about guys being um, Hall of Fame worthy or not, and that's the measure of your career. It's really not. I
Yeah.
don't think he's a Hall of Fame type, but he's a guy that um, you will be able to think on football for a long time and think about him and what he brought to the game of
Yeah.
football. You know, so that to me is just as big as being in the Hall of Fame. If everybody got in, it's really not a Hall of Fame, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. I
still a great
mean,
player though,
yeah. I
in
mean,
his own way.
you got to really give respect for a guy who put in 17 years, um, kept getting picked up by teams, got opportunity after opportunity, and a lot of times played really well. I mean, we always kind of joked around fantasy football wise. If you picked him up, you knew you were going to get some monster stats for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then the wheels are going to fall off. But you have to give the dude credit for when he went out there and balled, man. He went out there and balled. And I mean, if he has one really valid reason why you might want to consider him for the Hall of Fame, it's got to be that beard,
That's not Hall of Fame, sir, but it's not gonna get to the Hall of Fame. I just
man.
got to crush that. But I know there's a couple of more top tier people we're going to talk about. But I actually did pull up the other retirements. So since we're talking retirements, I'm just going to take like 2 minutes. Other guys, a quick shout out. So there's still some guys we'll talk about, but just some other guys that retired. Ajayi retired. Ricardo Allen, Brandon Brooks, Jack Sitchie, Cameron Clark, Jack Crawford, Jack Doyle, Andrew East, Kyle Fitz. We talked about Fitz, BJ Goodson, Chris Hogan, Sam Koch, Anthony Levine, Brandon Linder, Cameron Malvo, Allie Marpet, Whitney Merciless, Bilal Powell, Hassan Bryant, Lee Smith, Stefan Tuitt, Alejandro Villanueva, and Robert Windsor. These are all guys that retired. So, some of these guys may not have been big names. They may have just been guys that played on teams. Some of them may have been guys that had, a portion of their career was really good and then maybe went down some. But yeah, these were all guys. And then you could throw in a guy like Malcolm Jenkins. Of course, Ben Roethlisberger we know about as well, and Eric Weddle, because those are guys we don't have to really talk a lot about. People know those guys.
Yep.
They know what they've done. But just some other guys, and I know there's a few that you wanted to break out and talk about, but just some other guys that retired this year. I'm a big person. If we're going to start acknowledging people for retiring, acknowledge them. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So on a somewhat sad and then also a happy note, man, do have to throw a RIP out here for Marion Barber. Um, don't know the
Yeah.
circumstances around what happened with that yet. Just know that they found him in his apartment. He's only 38 years old, man. So that's heartbreaking, bro. You know, because I remember. I mean, I know you as an Eagles fan, you probably were not a fan when he was actually out on the field against you. But he was a guy that when he played with a lot of heart and play football the way that people say they want football played. So it's unfortunate that it's come to this. I do know a couple years ago, one of his former teammates had actually come out and say he wasn't doing that great. So it's a sad end for him, man. So I just want to acknowledge that for a second. Also, another
Yeah,
guy who was
man.
having
R.I.P. to Marion the Barbarian.
absolutely another guy who was having some issues that was in that list that you just mentioned, actually, I wanted to talk about real quick was Jay Ajay. He actually had taken out an insurance policy in case he got injured, and somehow there was some issue with it where I guess the insurance company didn't want to pay up, despite the fact he got injured. And apparently, he's finally come to a settlement with him. The amount's not disclosed. I don't know if he got all the money that he was owed or not, but it's good to hear that he's at least getting something out of that and can kind of move on. So hopefully he got it taken care of because
Yeah, he did. I
football.
actually read an article. He did end up getting his money.
Did well, I read an article,
Yep.
but it said the article I read said that it didn't know how much it was. So did you see when it said he actually got all the money?
The one I read, it looks like it said
Okay,
all the money.
okay, that's good, man. That's what's up. So a couple of other guys that retired. We won't spend too long on these, but we can just kind of chat about them real quick. So one guy that I think is fringe Hall of Fame uh, is Alex Mack. Longtime center for the Cleveland Browns, also played for the Atlanta Falcons, and most recently played for the 49ers. So, center's a hard position to get in because you don't really have stats per se. Some of the metrics they look at for offensive linemen, he matches up very well with guys who are in the Hall of Fame as centers already. So what are your thoughts there? I mean, obviously, center, I don't think is a position you're necessarily going to get in first ballot unless you just like blow people away. But do you see him as a Hall of Fame caliber guy?
Well, he was in the Pro Bowl 7 of his 13 years. He played for some Cleveland teams that weren't that good, Atlanta teams. So he was with some organizations that it was very difficult, and still was able to do what he did. I don't know if he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, but I definitely believe he's a guy that should be in consideration. He's not a guy that you're going to say, oh, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's at least a guy that needs to be in consideration for the Hall of Fame. Whether he actually makes it in or not, can't make that determination. But he definitely should be in talks. It is harder for positions like center because you have guys that have been waiting for a long time that have more accolades than he does that may not be in yet. But he's definitely a guy that should be in consideration.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I really don't care for with the way the NFL does their Hall of Fame stuff is they try to limit it to a certain number of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you have this backlog of people who should be in, but they keep getting pushed back further and further, and to the point that at some point it gets to the point where we maybe put them in way later, and a lot of times it's unfortunately once those people are no longer with us, and that's unfortunate because it's like you put that time in, you put that work in. It's a shame that you don't get to experience that for yourself. I mean, it's cool for the families to still at least get that acknowledgement, but that's just that kind of sucks really for the players that they don't get that acknowledgement.
Yeah, definitely true. And just wanted to shout out Andrew Whitworth, um, who also retired this year,
Yeah.
offensive tackle with the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals during his career. Got him a ring
Right.
with the Rams this year. I don't blame him. Get your ring. Let's get out. Let's go home.
Yeah. And of course, man, we can't talk about retirements without acknowledging Tom. Oh wait, never mind. Mr. 3 week retirement.
You saw the commercial he did where he said he just needed a vacation.
It's like, dude, you could just take off, right?
Hey, it got him a commercial. So I was like, whatever you want me to say to get this commercial, let's go.
But there is
Money in the
actually
bank.
one more I want to talk about, and to me, this guy is not a question of if he gets in the Hall of Fame. It's is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? And that is a guy who just signed a 1-day contract with my Niners to retire yesterday. A guy that I know you are very familiar with, a Miami Hurricanes legend, Frank the Inconvenient Truth Gore. Like literally, like the only Miami player that
It's
I
all about
actually,
you, baby.
yeah, probably like literally the only Miami player I like.
Well, that's unfortunate for you, but they'll live. But yeah,
But yeah,
Frank Gore,
man.
man, loved him in college, loved him in the pros, consummate professional, dog, ran hard. No matter what role you gave him, if you wanted him to be your number one back, he'd do that. If you wanted him to be the backup, he'd do that. If you wanted him to mentor, he'd do that. He almost came to Philadelphia. That would have been great, but didn't quite work out. It's fine, it happens. But just a great all around classy guy. Never heard any negative things about him in college or the pros. He played hard, played the game the right way, loved his teams, didn't mind doing the dirty work, blocking, whatever he could do to help his teams when he did that. That's why everybody loves him,
Yeah.
even the
Yeah.
Florida State guy.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, Frank, I remember, had the knee injuries in college. Basically, like everyone, him coming out of college was like, he's done. He can't compete. There's no way he's going to last in the NFL. A lot of people took him off their boards. We ended up picking him in the third round, and then we were heavily criticized for taking him in the third round. People say we're idiots. This guy's not even going to have a career. Well, was he played 17 seasons, 16, 17 seasons? And in that
A lot of
time, yeah, he is third in overall yardage in NFL history for running back. He also is only behind Emmett and Walter Payton in terms of carries. So, yeah, turned out pretty good for a guy who everybody wrote off and said he has no chance. And I bring it up because you know what? We talked about it earlier. Don't be a prisoner of the moment. And a lot of times people they're writing these young kids off immediately. Oh, they got injured a couple times in college. They had this, they had that. They're never going to be able to make it in the NFL. You can't just look at someone's injuries. Sometimes you can, but the thing is, you have to look at people's heart. You have to really see what that person brings. And that's the one thing about Frank Gore. Dude has a lot of heart. He's a competitor. Like my co-host was just saying, he will go do everything he need to do on the field. Team first guy. I know Frank will never say it, so I will say it for him. Hate you, Greg Roman. All you had to do was give Frank the ball. We have a 6 Lombardi trophy, but you had to throw the ball to Michael Crabtree. Why? Why did you not just give Frank the ball, man? That's all you had to do. I'll never forgive Greg Roman for that. So
we see.
yeah. I'm not holding on to it or anything though.
Of course not. Why would you do
It's,
such a thing?
it's only been what 8 years. Maybe I'll let go of it when Frank gets in the Hall of Fame or something. I don't know. Maybe not. But yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge that, man. Great story that Frank Gore has. So I don't know, man. Maybe one day we'll get him to come on the show, man. Seems like a cool guy. Maybe he'll come talk to us.
Anything is possible.
So man, we got about 12 minutes left. So what other big stories are out there right now that you want to talk about?
Well, I'm good. I really don't have anything that I need to talk about, sir. What would you like to talk about?
Well, sir, since we do have some extra time here today, I do think we can go ahead and discuss what is possibly the absolute dumbest, silliest story in all of professional sports. Now, we normally stick with football and basketball, and this is a baseball story, but it's about football. So, for those of you who do not know this, I do not watch baseball. I'm not a baseball fan. So, if you start asking me to name people's names and teams, I'm probably not going to be able to right now. I know one of the dudes plays for the Giants, but the bottom line is there was a actual physical altercation that happened on a baseball field where one person slapped another because of fantasy football. And he got suspended for what, 3 games? A 3-game suspension for fantasy football. Now, I'm sure everyone has actually heard the story already, so we don't necessarily need to sit here and recap every bit of it. But I just want to hear, like, what are your thoughts other than, like, obviously it being stupid? What are your thoughts on this whole situation, man?
My first thought is, so you mean to tell me during fantasy football season you had beef over um I mean, let me put this, you guys are aware of this. So the beef was over one of the guys put a guy on injury reserve that was out a week and picked up someone else. So the other guy got
Mhm.
mad. So then the first guy called him out like, yo, you've done this in other leagues I'm in with you. You just did it the other day.
Yeah.
So this escalated and became this big thing between the two guys, which
Mhm.
to me is ridiculous.
Right.
But I digress. And it turned from that into, I guess, this war of words for months
Uh-huh.
because football season's been over for a minute.
Right.
So you choose when your teams are playing, slap another man
Mhm.
over fantasy football.
Yeah.
That's what you chose to do.
Mhm.
But I can't even describe how asinine this whole thing is. I just can't even describe how ridiculous, how uncalled for, how just stupid this is.
Yeah.
You're lucky you only got 3 games. You should have got 5 just off of GP. Like, what are you doing? But I mean, I guess if fantasy football is that serious to you, I guess you feel like you showed him something. You
I
did
gotta
show him
tell you,
something that you were soft.
I gotta tell you this much. I want to know what is the buy-in in this league, right? Because they better
Doesn't matter. These are professional athletes.
listen. There better been some huge money on the line for you to be upset enough to go slap somebody over all this. That's all I'm saying.
We both know it probably wasn't.
It probably wasn't, but that's just ridiculous to me, bro. Like you really went and did this. Like you were that upset because you're talking about somebody stashing players. Like that really bothered you that much? We have people stash players every year in our leagues. I've never slapped
Now, don't
anybody
get me
over it.
wrong. I don't even have a problem with you slapping a dude for it. If that's what you want to do. But you waited until you saw him in the baseball game to do it. That's my thing. Like, if you want to go slap people, I mean, be ready for consequences
Yeah.
because every action has a reaction. So there's consequences, repercussions. We do things like that. But if you want to go slap a man, do your thing. But to wait till you in the baseball field, you know what I'm saying, playing your sport and slap somebody over fantasy football, that's
Bro,
SAWFT all day.
bro. I saw the interview where he started talking about what happened, I was in disbelief. I was like, this isn't really happening. Like, he's got to be talking about something else, right? Like, is he not answering the question he was asked? Like, there's no way that this whole dispute is about fantasy football. And the thing about it, man, is he told a story with a straight face, bro. Like, he was so matter of fact about it. He was like, yeah, I mean, basically the whole thing started because he was like stashing players and like, bro. Oh man, yeah, that one I can't even do it, bro. So I do have one other question for you before we wrap up, man. Uh, NBA draft deadline for entering the draft or withdrawing your name has passed, and I did see some rankings that have come out, post that deadline. They have your North Carolina Tar Heels at number one. So, curious on your thoughts.
Well, if you look at it, they lost one player. One player that was a significant piece of the team, and that was to eligibility. The other 4 starters are back. Puff Johnson fared very well when placed with those other 4 guys that should step into that starting role. Um, they were 1 game away from winning the championship last year. They have a 5-star coming in this year. A couple of other really good players, and Seth Trimble and some other guys. Have a couple of young guys that got a little bit of experience last year. We had some people that really weren't playing leave, which opened up a few more scholarships. We now have the ability to bring in a transfer player. We're working on getting the right guy for that. But it's a no-brainer. It's the late. Honestly, it's the lazy pick. You pick the team that has the most guys coming back from their run to the championship game the prior year, who has a history of lose a championship game, come back and win it next year, and you say they're going to be number one.
Yeah.
It's lazy, but I think in this particular, it is right as of now. There's still some time before we start getting into college basketball season, so we'll see how things shake out for some other teams. There's still a few guys who are undeclared, undecided as of yet.
Yeah.
We normally get one or two guys that reclassify from junior to senior so that they can, well, from senior to graduating so they can get out early.
Yeah.
Guys that may thought about going to prep school end up just going to college, but I think it's the right call as of now.
Okay. Yeah, I just was curious what your thoughts were. I know y'all obviously went further than people expected last year. So I was really more, I guess, curious to see if you felt that it was reasonable or if you felt it was a bit of an overreaction just based on the fact that they went to the championship game last year. So it sounds like you're kind of a little bit in between that you feel is somewhat reasonable, but also just a little bit of laziness where people just kind of took the easy pick.
Yeah, definitely the easy pick. But hey, anytime people look at you and say you're number one, you love it.
You're gonna take it, right? I mean, it's all day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, man, that is actually gonna be it for us tonight. Then, really easy week since we only had one NBA series to talk about and not much NFL news. Kind of give people a little bit of a sneak preview for things that are gonna be coming up. Obviously, training camp will be starting here soon, so we'll be talking some training camp. We'll have the NBA draft coming up. So
OTAs.
yeah, so
OTAs have started.
might see some contracts get signed from some of these guys that are um, been holding out or got franchise tagged or whatever, looking to get the long term extensions. So might start seeing some of that stuff pop up. Of course, we'll have our NFL previews that will be starting up here soon. Y'all don't want to miss a special announcement coming soon about the NFL. Not ready to give that to y'all just yet.
Yes, sir.
Not ready to give it to you
Not
just
quite
yet,
yet.
but it's coming. Stay
Not
tuned.
quite yet.
Yeah. And
Oh, it's coming.
so obviously we'll be talking about the NBA draft also. We'll be kind of breaking that down, giving our predictions for who might go where. WNBA, like you said, is something that not once the finals are over, that's going to be the only basketball that's on. So we'll probably be talking a little bit more of that. So just stay tuned over the next couple of months. Don't assume that because it's summer and the sports are kind of slowing down, or because we don't really talk a lot of baseball, that we're not gonna have anything to talk about. We'll have plenty to talk about. So make sure y'all tune in. If you are tuned in right now, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. That lets YouTube know that our show is valuable and that they should share with other people. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button also. So anything you want to add to that, sir?
And hey, just want to say also, you never know. I might pop up on here and talk some baseball. Might talk some soccer. You never know.
That's why I said hardly ever. I always have to leave a little room for you because you let to go rogue on me.
That's who I am as an individual. That's who I am as a person. I can't help who I am.
Hey man, I respect it and hate you for it at the same time. It is what it is.
That warms just a little corner of my heart.
Well,
By one of the valves, it just warms it.
Yeah, I'm just so glad I could bring you that joy, man. So glad I could bring you that joy. Well, we'll see y'all back next Friday night for another episode of the Play Caller Sports Talk Show, a Play Caller Sports production.
Let's go.